About 12.
Oh gosh. All right. This is the Wednesday night edition of Southbound and Down. We are the premier NFC South podcast. I'm here with my esteemed panel as usual. We have Greg Barber, who lives in Tampa, but his heart is in the Bayou. Greg, how you doing, buddy? Tell everybody how they can get at you.
Well, you can contact me at SGB on Twitter. I'm pretty much on all the time. I mean, I'm definitely around there, even if I'm not tweeting or anything. I'm around. So yeah, you can follow me there, and definitely happy to talk football or whatever.
Yeah, Greg is a good follow, folks. So if you get a chance, make sure you follow him. Gene, the Tampa Bay Machine, you are out in Phoenix, but you love some Buccaneers.
Oh, yeah.
Tell everybody what you're doing about your podcast and where they can reach you on Twitter.
You can reach me at Super Heavyweight on Twitter. You add me, I'll be more than happy to talk about football or baseball or wrestling. I talk about all of it. My show, Buck What You Heard, I try to do it once a week. I talked a little bit yesterday about the Bucks win, so go out on YouTube and check that out.
All right. And Scott Karasik, you are the Falcons representative on our show, and you are a very happy 5-0, I'm sure. Tell everybody where they can read your work and how they can get in touch with you on Twitter.
You can find my stuff at Pro Football Spot. A little bit writer blocked right now. I haven't been writing much, but I'm going to work on some stuff. And then on Twitter, you can find me at Karasik PFS. I will talk with anybody about any sport as long as it's not baseball or hockey or golf. Like, I don't care about those sports. But
didn't you put out a draft breakdown of Miles
Jack? Yeah, I was still in the middle of film on that. I got real busy this week with some family stuff that came up. So.
All right, well, I am looking forward to reading that when you do get it out. And last but certainly not least, the Panthers rep and somebody you'll see a bunch more of on this show, T-Money. Tell them where they can see your infamous and famous YouTube videos and where they can get at you on Twitter.
The YouTube is Mr. T-Money 1993. The Twitter is TMuhammad23, and I have my own podcast, but I ain't gonna lie, I've been slack about it. I don't think I've done one since week 1, but it's the Straight Facts with Mr. T Money podcast.
And that is part of the C3 network, much like we are. We are associated with CarolinaCatChronicles.com. On Tuesday nights, our sister podcast, which is the C3 podcast, is on at 10. And Wednesday nights, we take a little bit bigger of a picture of our division and look at the entire NFC South. So that's what we're here to do tonight. And we're going to start with the Saints tonight. Greg, it's been a long year, and we're only 5 weeks into the season. But you guys... I'm sure there's a bit of frustration going on with the organization because, you have had a history of winning. And I know Drew Brees is used to winning, and he's seeing, his winning's kind of tough to come by right now. Philadelphia was struggling a bit, and New Orleans went up there. I thought they had a real good chance to win the game. And ended up, they kind of let it get away from them, and it wasn't so close, really. What can you tell us about the game? Greg, are you there? All right, well, I'll jump in. The Saints rolled into Philadelphia with the hopes of getting back on the winning track against the struggling and underperforming Eagles team. The Saints did have 4 turnovers.
You can't hear me?
No,
you can't hear me?
No, now we can.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you hear what I said? I'm sorry.
No, yeah, I did. I heard everything. I heard you. I was just. But anyway, like I said, yeah, they were in the game up to about the third quarter, and then all of a sudden, it seemed like it was turnover city. I mean, that and a few, and basically short field. I mean, it was one of those games. So, I mean, I'm not sure exactly, what to say. I mean, they took a little bit of a step back.
Yeah, 4 turnovers and only 96 yards rushing. I guess the good part was some of your receivers came alive and had some big days, or had a big day, a couple of them. Snead, who I had never even heard of, but he came in and played big. Drew Brees.
Yeah, he was on Carolina's practice.
Oh, no kidding? He was on the Carolina's practice squad?
Yeah, Carolina's practice squad. Yeah.
You're kind of going.
I think they got.
Okay. Well, he did have a good game for you. I was on the Saints site today, and I read that. Greg, you're going in and out. I don't know if it's your internet or if you're turning away from the microphone or what, but we're hearing some of what you're saying, losing some of it.
Let me check something. All right, hold on. I'll try something. I'll come right back.
Oh, there we go. That's good. I don't know what you're doing there, but I was perfectly clear. Anyway, it says Drew Brees said today, I'm not really happy with the way things have gone. Well, honestly, that's putting it mildly. I can't imagine he would be too happy with the way things have gone. But he said that he's putting all his emotions. He's running.
Quarterback for it.
Yeah, no quarterback would be happy with the way that they've been playing so far this season. I think he was quoted as saying he's going to harness all of his emotions, which have been anger, frustration, a certain level of disillusionment, and all these emotions he's been feeling. He's harnessing and focusing all that energy on this game coming up with Atlanta. It's at New Orleans, and I know the Saints want to put on a really good showing at the very least. So what can he do differently to make this game close? Because looking at it on paper, it shouldn't really be that close.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, mostly on paper, you could probably almost say, anything of how they game, but they always end up close. I think the whole key is they just got to play a pretty clean game. I mean, that's what we're going to come down to at this point. I mean, they really can't afford to have the turnovers. The offense is not that explosive now, so they can't really afford the turnovers. They play, a fairly at least solid game.
Right.
And that's going to be a tough time. And cut down a lot on the penalties, the dumb penalties that sometimes that backfired on them. I mean, they had a couple times there where they had a sack, like against Philadelphia. Cam Jordan has a sack, Brandon Browner has a penalty that negates it, and it keeps the Philadelphia drive going, or there's a holding penalty, something like that, that slows the drive down, it bogs the drive down, and those type of things right there, right, like I said, just because this offense is not built right now to come back off that.
Right. They can't get too far behind because they really don't have enough. Go ahead, Gene.
I think the key really is getting the running game going. That's first and foremost. I don't know what else they can really do. I think that's what kind of hurt them against Philadelphia was not establishing a run as good as they could have.
Yeah, but
it's not going to be easy.
Yeah, but the starting left tackle, Terran Armstead, is out right now. So
Well, I heard, but
he won't make this game. Yeah.
He's not playing this week. I thought he was going to play.
He's not playing this game. It looks like
so he is officially out.
Yeah, no, he practiced limited, but they're saying it's doubtful. They're saying it's doubtful.
Right. If he was playing
they didn't say officially he was out, but they just said he was doubtful at this point.
Right.
So I mean, I'm assuming it's like.
Scott, I know that the Falcons' pass rush has improved, and we'll talk about the Falcons game later, but do you see the New Orleans offensive line being able to slow down that pass rush?
I mean, if they're missing Teron Armstead and Lolito and Jari Evans is banged up,
Andrew Speed will be taking a spot.
I really don't. I really don't see him being able to stop. This will be the weakest line that the Falcons have played all year. And
yeah, it could be.
It could look a lot like the Saints game from last year towards the end of the season, where Atlanta had 5-6 sacks, another 6 hits on top of it, and we're just in the backfield all day.
Wow.
Especially with how Higgins improving, especially with how Claiborne's and Beasley have been hitting that stunt. They may not be getting sacks, but they're hitting quarterbacks at a regular, consistent rate. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens long term.
Hey, Scott, quick question. With Adrian Claiborne coming over to Atlanta, how is that acquisition working out for the defense?
When he first got signed, I thought he was going to be like the base strong side end. He has not played a single down at defensive end for the Falcons. He's only played pass rushing defensive tackle.
Wow.
So it's been fun. I've enjoyed it because I didn't expect him to play that role, but he fills it really well. He's got something like 6 quarterback hits already this year. He doesn't have a sack yet, but I think in this game he'll probably get his first one just because he's going to go against whoever Lolito's backup is, which is, if it's Mike McGlynn, he's going to destroy him.
Clemente.
Or if it's Clemente, he's going to destroy him because neither one of those guys is really any good.
Yeah, Jari Evans should play. So Clemente will probably go into Lolito.
So really, the Falcons' best hope of slowing down that pass rush is going to be draws and screens, as opposed to just straight up blocking. Really, they're going to have to try to
probably
use, I don't want to say chicanery, because that's really not a trick play, but it's going to slow down the rush.
They will have to try to use it against them. I don't know if that's going to work or not.
Right. But they're going to have to incorporate it somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Right. Either that or you're going to be keeping the backs in a lot and keeping them as coming in and block and pick up blitzers. You know what I mean? So if somebody slips through a back, you have a back there to kind of try to catch some people. I don't know. Or extra tight end or something like that could be another option.
Is it too early in the year to think that if the Saints keep having as difficult a year as it's been to this point, and Drew Brees is pretty much, he's had an accomplished career. You know, he's won a Super Bowl. He's won many games. He's set passing records. Do you think it's unreasonable to think he may decide to call it a career?
I think if he gets hurt, bad enough, I think it could be a possible chance. I think if he turns around in this line and he gets hit hard enough or something like that, or that shoulder gets damaged pretty bad, where he's out for like the rest of the year or something similar like that, where you got to come back with that rehab at 30, at that age, I don't see why he would stay.
Put the effort.
I'm not sure if the Saints will even keep him. Huh?
Right. But why would he want to put the effort in? And there, wouldn't you say?
That's what I'm saying.
Let me ask you this today: do you think the Saints are in a rebuilding mode?
Yes, I said that before the season that I felt like most of the teams was in the NFC South was in a rebuild mode. I just felt like the Saints were trying to do it faster because Brees' window is small.
Right.
But either way, I don't think he's going to be on the team next year. They're not paying him $30 million for a struggling team. They're either going to trade him or get him to retire. Same way, I think if they get beat bad enough in this Atlanta game, Rob Ryan's gone this week. And because Sean Payton already has the answer on his coaching staff and Dennis Allen.
I actually see, and it's funny that you say that, today. Allen was supposed to be kind of sharing the duties, and the defense is not doing any better. I don't see where Allen's not getting some of that heat to a point. You know what I mean?
Because he's not sharing the duties.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, he's not right. I mean, now Ryan is calling the plays, but all I'm saying is Allen's supposed to be there to help shore up some things and kind of be the like the yin to the yang to Ryan. So in a sense, he was like a senior assistant, but still supposed to be technically kind of like also the co-defensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with Dennis Allen is he's a quiet personality, and when you got Rob Ryan, who's
so loud and boisterous,
you're not going to get your voice heard if you're a quiet personality like Dennis Allen. That's why Dennis Allen was a shitty head coach, because he was a quiet personality. That's why Joe Philbin was a shitty head coach. He was a quiet personality.
Right.
It doesn't work.
I agree.
Yeah. So like I said, if Atlanta beats them bad enough, I feel like Rob Ryan's gone. I mean, some of the Saints fans I see try to make, it's no big deal. Him and Rob Ryan are always arguing on the sideline. It's got to be some reason we're seeing it every game pretty much. And really, what has Rob Ryan's defense done that first year?
Well, see, my thing is this, like, especially when I watched the Philadelphia game, the one thing I kept thinking of was like, I wonder if a different defense coordinator came in there right now, with that defense, would they actually perform better because a different defense coordinator came in with a, you know what I mean, a little bit different philosophy, different voice, everything like that. If he came in there and would they actually be an improved unit? Because, I mean, like a lot of people saying that they lack talent and all that. I don't think so. I think they got a lot more talent on their team than said. It just, they're not getting it out of the players.
They do have talent.
I mean, no different. I mean, Atlanta went through the same deal in a sense. A different voice came in. And they became a much better team. You know what I mean? Especially with the defense, they played a lot better and everything else. It was a different guy. But you had a lot of the same players. You acquired a few guys, but still at the same time you had technically a lot of the same guys, just a different voice.
So Greg, would you say that the acquisition of Rob Ryan, was that a good move looking back on his body of work, or yes or no?
Technically, he was my second or third choice. The one I wanted, like I said, to me was Romeo Crennel. That was the first one I wanted when they fired him. But Crennel had gotten fired from Kansas City. He was getting $6 million a year to sit on his ass.
Yeah,
can't blame him.
And what's kind of interesting, you look at how he left Cleveland, how he left Dallas, and just his exits. It makes you wonder what kind of defensive coordinator he is.
I think it's a mixture of. I think it's Rob Ryan. First of all, I think his defenses is easy to figure out. Because if you look at anywhere, he's only really good that first year, wherever he goes.
Right.
After that, it's
agreed.
Because when you're doing all that exotic stuff he tries to do, you have to have them shut down corner.
But it's funny. But this year they have not been doing a lot of exotic stuff. They've been basically rushing 4. If they rush them straight on. You're not really seeing any stunts or any of that stuff right now. Very seldom you ever see a blitz. You know what I mean? And they just drop the 7 back, and that's about it. It's kind, it's
people he thought too much of when they signed him for that defense. Browner is maybe the worst corner y'all have right now.
I agree.
He was so slow. He a lot of holding penalties. Which
they don't have Davis.
He's hurt though. I don't think he's playing.
That's true. He's just bad.
Yeah, and he's hurt. I always felt like that. He made the highest pace really to do work. He hasn't really played, and when he has, he doesn't stop anybody. And then Kenny Vaccaro, when that first year, we were all like, okay, Kenny Vaccaro is one of the best young safeties in the league.
Right.
It's him and what's our boy from the Cardinals, Tyrann Mathieu. We were putting them up there together, and I can't remember the last time I heard anybody talk about Kenny Vaccaro besides him getting benched.
Yeah, I agree. Nobody really has said much about him ever since that first year. That first year, he was projected, to become one of the premier guys in the league.
He got hurt at the end of that year and sort of recovering like that second year. But I mean, overall, I mean, I know what you're saying. I mean, this year he's played a lot. He's played a lot better than what he played last year. But I know what you're saying. It's still not that same level he was the first year. You're
Right.
still not hearing his name all over the place. It's not that still same thing. I mean, but he'll make a play here and there, but it's still definitely not the same thing. No, you're not getting the same thing out of him that you did before.
No, and that's noticeable really on the defense in general. When I was looking over the game stats from this week, the Saints defense might as well not even shown up. They gave up 519 yards. I mean, you're not going to win a
Right. Yeah.
game when you're giving up that kind of yardage.
Agree. Yeah. I mean, the only one that probably was close to worse was the Ravens. That was. I mean, it was them and the Ravens gave up like about 500 yards in on the defense side of the
Yeah.
ball this
Yeah.
week. Yeah, that's definitely not the company you want to hang out with in the 500-yard range.
No, definitely not.
So I
Yeah.
mean,
Oh, well, I
so
tell
I
you
mean,
what.
yeah, it's definitely for.
I think Scott's on to something if the Falcons come in and just stomp on the Saints and put up another 500 yards this week and put up 40 points, Rob Ryan is going to get run right out of New Orleans, and then I guess this Allen coach
Yeah,
we were referring to
yeah,
will slip in
Dennis
his
Allen,
positions. So we'll see.
yeah, but see, I don't think that's the answer. I mean, that's not the
better
answer.
than Rob
I mean,
Ryan for the
I
rest of
don't,
the year.
huh?
Is better than closing out the season with Rob Ryan and you're
I
1-5.
agree.
If
I
Atlanta
agree.
comes in
Oh,
and
agreed.
rolls the Saints,
Agreed.
Saints are 1-5. They're stupid to not make any sort of changes.
And the biggest thing is Sean
Agreed.
Payton.
And I'm with you on that. I wouldn't have been surprised if they had made the change now. But also, I mean, I wonder. Sometimes part of me wondering, like, could Payton be waiting to bye week, which is way too long to me.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
if that's I mean, after this game right here, you think about it, you got about 10 days anyway. So you got about 10
When's y'all's
days,
bye week?
huh?
When's y'all's bye
Our
week?
bye week is what, week 11? Week 11.
Nah, they ain't waiting.
Gosh, shit.
No,
Yeah,
that's way too
late for
long.
y'all.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
I think the
it
biggest
is
thing
way
would-
too long. I agree.
the,
But I'm
Go
saying,
ahead,
I'm
go
wondering
ahead
if
today. What were you saying?
the biggest thing right now that would make that loss mean so much more is it's on prime time. You're not just losing. And it's a division game, and
Yeah.
it's on Thursday night football.
Right.
So
Right.
if the Falcons have a game like that, who was that? That game they had against Tampa last year was like 56-14, and they put in the back. Yeah, he's
Gone. Yeah, they're going to run him out of
Yeah,
town.
I hope the Falcons have that kind of game this week.
Sean
Alright,
Payton
so-
has to look like he's doing something. So at least when either he gets fired or he leaves at the end of the year, he can be like, "Well, I did try."
Right.
Right.
Sean Payton's gonna land on his feet if he wants to keep coaching regardless.
Oh, agreed.
Yeah,
I agree.
He'll get a
absolutely.
no-see
Not
job
even-
in
not
no
even
time.
job.
Maybe a head coaching job.
He'll have a job the minute he leaves.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's not even a question right there. So,
All right, well, I want to
he'll
move
have a job the minute he
on. I
leaves.
want to move on. We spent half this show on the Saints. That wasn't my intention at all. So quickly, very quickly.
Go ahead.
Greg, what do you see the score being Thursday night? Just quickly wrap it up.
I don't really know. As far as score, I have no idea. I really don't. I think me, myself, because just history tells you it's going to be a closer game than maybe expected. But at the same time, I mean, like, hell, I can't tell you. I mean, it could easily be like a 56-something. But it also could turn around and be, 26-20, something like that. I mean, at this point in time, all I'm going to be, I'm just going to be rooting for my team and hoping that they can pull this game out somehow.
And you know what? I think
that's about it.
That's fair. I think that's fair because this is one of those things where you just don't know. You really just don't know.
don't know. I don't know if they're going to be closer to what they played at the Eagles, or they're going to be closer to what they played out at like the Panthers,
right?
Where it was a tighter game and they at least in the damn thing,
Right. All right. I'm going to move on to the Bucks.
Yeah. Feel free.
The Bucks. Thanks, Gene. Thanks. Thanks, Greg. I appreciate you helping me move the show along, giving me the.
Oh, hell yeah.
the Bucks. The Bucks last week faced off against the Jags. Now, the Jags have been tough this year for a number of teams. They've played them well, and this was the best game of Bortles' career, I think, to this point. 4 touchdowns, 300 yards. Good game, but they lost. And it was all Doug Martin for Tampa Bay. It was the Doug Martin show.
Yeah.
123 yards and 3 touchdowns. He caught one touchdown pass. So he showed Lovey what he can do if given the ball and some decent blocking. What did you think of his performance, Gene?
I've been saying this since last year that Doug Martin's been injured, and he has not been 100% since Greg Schiano's been there. He had multiple injuries over the past couple of years, and this year he's 100% healthy. He's playing like he did when he was a rookie, and this is a contract year, so you can expect that kind of performance out of Doug Martin. He's been running very strong all season, and that's pretty much par for the course for him. I know a lot of people are going to say this was the Jacksonville Jaguars, but at the same time, he still had to go out every Sunday and play the game. I think he had a good game. He was very consistent with his running. I was very happy with what the offensive line did as well, opening up holes for him to run through.
Yeah, there was some good blocking. There had to be for him to have the kind of game that he did. And, we're not we know the Jags aren't, considered one of the premier teams in the league, obviously, but they do play well. They generally play to the level of their opponent to a certain degree.
Yeah, but Mark also put up 100 yards against the Panthers last week, too. Like, it's not like he did shitty last week. He's just finally getting his legs under him.
Yeah, he is. He is.
Yeah, back-to-back 100-yard games. He's been a solid runner all season. I know he hasn't hit 100 all the time, but he's gotten runs, and there have been a couple of times where penalties have been called back. He got like a 25-yard run that would have put us in scoring position and was called back because of penalties. So there have been a lot of times where he's gotten runs, but we don't hear about it because it was negated because of penalties.
Penalties, right.
Yep.
So
that'll do it.
Yeah, that's a killer. And really, I think the thing that's the biggest thing to come out of this is a running game is a young quarterback's best friend. And this takes so much pressure off of Winston. It gives him a chance to not have to put the ball up 30 or 35 times in a game. He can hand it off 30 times and make easier throws, not put himself in a 3rd and 24 kind of situation. Right. So that's really going to help with his development. Do you think? What do you think of his development? What do you think of his play in the past?
I'm very happy with his development. He's a competitor. He wants to win, and you saw that in college. And I know a lot of people say that really doesn't translate over to the NFL. But when you have that mentality that you want to get better, you want to improve, and you're not just going to sit back on a decent game, he's continually trying to improve his craft. We saw no turnovers, which was, I was very happy about that. No turnovers from the quarterback. Right. That really contributes to a team winning the game. And I think the big thing about this game that I took away as the only real negative was the secondary. The secondary was giving up yards hand over fist. And I think that's been the big problem that I've seen is that when there's a lead, you have the defense and they're not holding that lead. Blake Bortles was just carving this secondary up, 4 touchdowns. That's unacceptable.
Yeah, I agree. That was when I saw that stat line, I was like, wow, he this is the game of his career. He really did have that kind of game. Scott, what do you think was the reason? I don't know if you got to see any of the game, but was it the offensive line able to just outplay the defensive line, or was it the secondary that was that bad with Tampa giving up 4 touchdown passes?
It was more garbage time than anything else. Tampa got up early. They were forcing Jacksonville to throw the passes. I don't think Jacksonville led in that game at any point. So when you're playing from behind, you're going to throw a butt-ton of passes.
Yeah, he threw 30. I think it was 33 pass attempts.
Yeah, he threw 33 passes. Tampa ran the ball all day. Tampa just ran the ball down their throat. between Doug Martin and Charles Sims, they averaged over 4.7 yards a carry. And when you're getting it at that clip,
yeah, that's killing it,
why would you
really.
pass the ball? You're playing.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and we're not even talking about the 51 yards receiving that Charles Sims got, catching balls out of the backfield. I mean, they really mixed it up, and they had a very balanced game.
Right, and that's even better for Winston because when you're throwing to the backs, you know that's a high completion percentage, and that's going to help you
Yeah.
with your confidence.
And it
Yeah.
helps you milk clock.
Right, very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
They held on to that ball.
And it gets the rhythm. It just kind of gets the rhythm going for him.
What about you
Yeah.
today? What do you think? Is the bigger weakness on the Tampa defense the line or the secondary? Are we?
As a whole, to me, is really their secondary, not just that game. Just watching them all season. I mean, their safeties. I don't think their safeties is really up to par, and their secondary. I think they're still trying to figure out who they really want in there. But
And I know if any Bucks fans are watching this, they're going to kind of be irritated with me, but Tim Jennings is horrible. He has no business playing in the NFL.
Yeah.
He's been getting cooked left and right since he had the one game. He had one good game against Brandon Cooks with the Saints, and he's been getting burnt by any and everybody. I swear Blake Bortles was looking for him to throw the ball his way.
Yeah.
Wow.
But at the end of the day, that's going to be a Lovey situation of luck.
But I mean, Jennings is pretty old too, isn't he? He's been in the league for a while.
Yeah.
I remember when he played in the early 2000s
You know what I mean? So,
Georgia.
Yeah, he got cut
Right.
from the Bears, and Lovey,
Yeah, he
I
got
guess,
cut from the Bears.
having some experience with him, brought him over. But yeah, if Blake Bortles is throwing for 4 touchdowns on you, I think you need to re-examine that secondary.
Well, he shouldn't be starting or playing a prominent role. I always thought he would just come in, play a couple of different, just
maybe
a couple
maybe
of
in the
different sets
nickel.
here and there.
I would see him in the nickel, maybe blitzing or something like that. I don't see him as a starting cornerback. I just don't see it.
Would you rather have Werner
that's not a good look.
in there?
I would be more than happy to have Werner in there. I think Werner's done a decent job. He's a upgrade, in my opinion, over Tim Jennings.
Yeah, but he's had a rough go of it.
Jennings and Jenkins. All day, every day.
Say it again.
Werner and Banks are better than Jennings and Jenkins.
Yes.
Yeah, and that makes me wonder, what does Jonathan Banks deal? Why?
Oh, he's injured.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I like Jonathan Banks a lot. I've always liked Banks.
Me too. I've always thought he had good potential, but he's not on the field enough to really see it, I guess, huh?
Yeah, he's injured right now, and hopefully, coming out of the bye week, we'll get him back.
Right, that's what I was going to ask. My next question was, you guys have a bye week coming up. I was going to ask you, who does that give a chance to get healthy so we can, see some guys back on the field?
Potentially, Austin Seferian-Jenkins may be back. DeMar Dotson, one of our offensive linemen, he could potentially be back as well. Chris Conte has been off and on the field with injuries. Hopefully, he'll be healthy enough to play. I'm trying to think who else possibly. Pretty much those are the main ones, but Austin Seferian-Jenkins is the one that kind of stands out for me. I think that Jameis Winston was getting comfortable throwing the ball to him in the first games that he was healthy enough to play in.
He was. That was kind of his little safety blanket a little bit.
Right.
He was a big receiver.
He was
looking
looking
for
for
him. 18
him.
yards out, catch a little pass, a little outlet pass or something,
He was
something.
really looking for him early on.
Yeah, the one thing that frustrates me is he doesn't block very well. That's the main thing that really kind of gets to me is, if you're a tight end out there, you have to know.
Tight ends can block these days.
Yeah. So you look at Vincent Jackson. Vincent Jackson is not scared to stick his nose in and block. And there have been a couple of plays. I replayed the game film where he was in there blocking for the running back, and he sprung Doug Martin on a big run. That big run that he had. Vincent Jackson sprung him. So, that's your receivers are more physical. Mike Evans is not scared to get in there and block. And that's kind of part of it with this offense to be able to block and open up those holes as well.
Well, that's crucial for making a long run. You got to have
It
those
is.
guys on the edge, getting downfield and picking up
Absolutely.
safeties and corners, so that you can
Absolutely.
bounce it outside or
Yep.
hit the sideline and take off. That's vital for sure. All
Yeah,
right.
you
Well,
have to.
you do have a bye this week, Gene. So I guess you'll get a chance to get healthy, do some scouting, and that sort of stuff. And like you said, you get a few guys healthy. I think if you do get Jenkins back, that would be a real big plus for you and for Winston too.
Yeah, most definitely.
All right, so we're going to move on to the Falcons game. Now, I think the Falcons were a bit ambushed by the Redskins. The defense showed up to play, and I thought they were really getting pressure on Ryan. And when they did, you could see it kind of hurried him, I guess. He seemed to like maybe be in a little bit more of a hurry to throw the ball, like his mental clock was sped up. And I even saw him cursing at the line. Well, maybe not cursing, but complaining to the linemen about some missed assignments or missed blocks, that kind of thing. What was it that the Redskins were doing, you think, that made it more difficult to protect Ryan?
I charted the game. They sent 5 or 6 or 7 men over 60% of the time. So they were just blitzing the shit out of them.
They were just outnumbered.
Yes, they were.
And specific. And very few teams can go out there and just blitz the way that they blitzed and be effective with it.
Right.
Because Chris Baker was sitting there eating up double teams. Terrence Knighton was eating double teams. Hatcher was eating double teams all day. When you got 2 of those guys taking a double team on any given play, and you're sending Ryan Kerrigan and Trent Murphy on the other side, it really throws off timing. And the Falcons' attack is all based on timing.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But they were having trouble stopping the run.
Right, and I saw. Go ahead. Today, you got anything to add to that?
Pretty much. I mean, that's what I've been seeing out of Matt Ryan for most of this year. Those teams that are bringing blitzes are getting pressure. To me, I mean, yes, Julio's done what he does because it's Julio. Nobody can stop him no matter what for the most part. But Matt Ryan hasn't looked that great to me. He hasn't looked like what I expect Matt Ryan to look like. He's had a good bit of bad games so far this year, in my opinion.
They also have relied a lot more on the running game this year than they had in previous years. They really haven't had a running game in previous years, the last 2 or 3 years anyway. So Freeman has come in and made a huge difference. I think Julio seems banged up a little bit and seems slowed. I wouldn't say he's hurt, but at least slowed by something.
Julio's got a hamstring injury.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he's on a pitch.
Ryan also has some issues with completely changing the offense from what it's been the last 8 years. So he's in a brand new offense. He's in the Shanahan style. He's never been in a West Coast offense before. So he's kind of getting that down.
He's adapting, yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, it's tough. Half the Eagles game he had trouble. Half the Giants game he was having trouble. The first half of the Cowboys he's had trouble. The only game that he's really put together from beginning to end was the Texans game when he played 3 quarters of it and they were up by so much. He said, all right, well, go chill on the bench. We got it from here. But they've got a running game really going well right now.
Yeah, that's for sure.
He played in that style of offense and blocking at Florida State, so it's going naturally and doing for the last X amount of years. So he's not really thinking. I feel like besides the fact that Jackson's body was breaking down, I felt like he had to do too much thinking about where he wanted to run last year. But Freeman is just he gets it.
Freeman's so good. I was so happy when they drafted him. I knew he was going to be a steal. So,
I didn't think. I mean, I thought he was good at Florida State, but I didn't think he was going to have this good of a year or this year. You know, I mean, he really has blossomed, and it is because of the change of style of the offense. I mean, it's clear to me, you know, that because of this coaching change, he has become a star, or at least a star in the making.
oh yeah, he's definitely
What?
gotten a lot better. He's definitely gotten a lot better running the ball. I've never seen him look this good though, even when he was in college.
I agree.
Like he's finding holes that I didn't even know were there. And as a receiver out of the backfield, that's where his true value has been. Because you can't just guard him as a running back. You got to watch him slip out the backfield. You got to watch him line up as a receiver.
Right.
I know the play didn't count officially, but he was lining up as a wide receiver and he ran around. Yeah, he ran around. It looked like Steve Smith out there running just a quick slant.
Right.
His man,
I can't believe they didn't count it as a touchdown. When they called it back, I was like, oh my goodness. I really thought that would be enough to cause the game to get away from Atlanta.
And we gotta mention Jacob Tamme. That guy was playing
he was
good.
everywhere.
Yeah, I would not be shocked to see Tamme go off tomorrow night. New Orleans has done horribly in guarding against tight ends this year.
Yeah, they've had trouble with tight ends.
So,
They've definitely had trouble with tight ends.
I think he had 96 yards in receiving.
Yeah, and he broke one for 25.
It wouldn't shock me to see him go over 100 tomorrow night.
Really?
Julio's been hurting. Roddy hasn't really been doing anything. Atlanta's got to get the yards somewhere. Yeah, Ryan's going to get his yards. So, I mean, you're going to see Freeman out the backfield. You're going to see Tamme get yards. And Tamme getting 120 yards would not be out of the question. They've just been terrible against tight ends this year.
Yeah, they have. They definitely had trouble with
Looks like we lost today.
New Orleans has been allowing an average of 90 yards and a touchdown to every tight end they've played.
Wow. That doesn't bode well for the Saints then. That's for sure. Does not bode well for the Saints. I think, you know, this is a game that Atlanta should easily win. I mean, I hate to say anything's a gimme, but if there is a gimme, this looks like it would be it.
You know, it's really odd that you say that. When you see conference games, they don't always turn out like you think they're going to turn out.
Right.
I look at the Saints game. Everybody had Tampa picked to beat the Saints. I mean, everybody. There was like a list of people, and from ESPN to NFL.com, everybody had them. So you get up to them. You play them twice a year. You know tendencies. I know this is different because we have a different coach, but it's still a division game.
Yep.
Yeah. I think that's a point you have to bear in mind. Usually division games are close because of how well these teams know each other. And I think Atlanta may have a slight edge because it is a new coach with a new system and a new scheme. Yeah. And, this is going to be the first time that...
but I mean, there's also enough film on them to know what the tendencies are and know what they're doing. There's still enough.
At the same time, even though the tendencies are very simple, very easy to realize, very easy, Atlanta's defense is very much, this is our defense. Can you get around our run fits? And they got the best run defense in the league right now.
They do. They really do. Because Washington had the #1 rushing attack coming into this game, and they were not really all that effective.
They averaged 2.2 yards a carry.
Yeah, it was pretty pathetic. So that really showed me that their defense, the defensive front for Atlanta, is much more staunch than they have been in the past.
And if New Orleans is trying to get a running game going, they really haven't had the offensive linemen healthy enough to get that chemistry to create those runs.
So the longer an offensive line plays together, the better they will become. And
True.
with the
Right
injuries
now, still, yeah,
and the people missing, their offensive line is a bit of a wreck.
it
But
is.
But they
I'm
are.
going to go ahead and give you my prediction, just because
Yeah, go ahead.
I
Let's
see
do it.
we got about 10 minutes left.
Yeah.
Atlanta New Orleans is always a close game, so I'm going to pick it close. I do think Atlanta wins, but I'm going to give it one touchdown. I got Atlanta 35, New Orleans 28.
Wow. If the score gets that high, that's going to be an exciting game.
I was gonna say 35-21, so I don't think he's that far off base.
Right. I think that's. I would agree with that. I would think that Atlanta's 14 points better than New Orleans, but at the same time,
It's the
New
Saints
Orleans,
Falcons game.
yeah, conference division game.
Although
Yeah.
I would love to see Atlanta go in, because Atlanta fans still have this bad taste in their mouth about the Saints beating Atlanta in 2011, running
Oh
the
yeah.
score up so that Drew Brees could get some bullshit record.
Mhm. Well, I want to
He
move
wanted his
on.
So
record, man.
we want to go down there and just beat the living crap out of y'all,
He
like
needed
56 to nothing.
his
This
record, man.
this week
I'm
coming up
sorry.
is
I mean,
this week coming up is a big week for the
yeah, I
Panthers.
thought you were gonna mention. I thought you were gonna mention 2012 when you guys were 8-0 and the Saints beat you.
This
I
week
know
is
that,
a
that was
big
no big
week
deal
for the
because Atlanta
Panthers
still won the division. The Saints
because
didn't make the
we are
playoffs.
playing Seattle in Seattle. The
But
Panthers are
the
0
2011 year,
4 versus
you guys were hurt.
Seattle versus Russell Wilson, and they are 0 4 in games after a bye week under Ron Rivera. So two streaks we're working against. Carolina is by traveling to Seattle. Today is what presents the best opportunity for Carolina to beat Seattle this time as opposed to other times?
The biggest thing is they have to come out early and keep Seattle's down because Seattle's been kind of shaky on their season. Pete Carroll and a lot of them guys over there are saying we don't really know why we lost last week. We don't know what's going on. We can't let them start fast, especially when it comes to Marshawn Lynch, because I'm thinking they're gonna think, okay, we're gonna be right on offense because Marshawn's back and we're gonna be able to do this and that. We got to shut them down early. And the second biggest thing is don't treat them bigger than they are. Yes, they're the Seahawks, but they're football players the same way we're football players. I know everybody got excited about Cam Chancellor. If you watched him last week,
He
old
was
boy
awful.
from the Bengals tight end was killing him last week.
Yeah, Eifert,
Yeah.
Eifert.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had a good day.
Eifert was
And
killing
the, and
him.
the 12th man and the 12th man's on injured reserve too. So that's
Yeah,
another
There you
thing to
go.
look at.
Yeah, I think today is on to something there. Carolina can't be overwhelmed by Seattle. Seattle's offensive line has looked pretty bad. We had Greg Ball, who's a writer for one of the papers up there in Washington State, and he was telling us how this line is, one of the worst that Seattle's had in the last
Well,
few seasons.
well, think about it. Think about it. New Orleans got their center, Max Unger. Of course, they got our tight end. I think that's a lot of it. That's kind of, you think about the two things that both teams are missing:
Right.
the firepower for us, and then also them for the block. And I mean, that could be a little bit of,
No,
that could be a little bit of where.
You're right, Greg. You're onto something there because he said that Unger was such a good center. He was a two-time Pro Bowl center. I think All-Pro maybe
Yeah,
even.
he was. Yeah.
That he made all the offensive line calls that Wilson didn't have to make any of them because he could do it.
Right.
But since he's been gone, they have gone to a high school type system where they call one set of blocking a scheme no matter what the defense does. Because early in the year, they found out they were changing the calls according to what the defense did, the blocking assignments.
Right.
And you would have two linemen going one way with three linemen going the other way. So they figured, well, if we're going to call the wrong one, let's at least all be going in one direction.
Yeah.
So that's how bad it has gotten for them. So I think, we have, like you said today, we have to get on them and stay on them.
Yeah,
And-
not let the biggest thing is not letting the atmosphere and the talk be bigger than what the game actually is. At the end of the day, it's still football. You can't worry about the 12th man. You can't worry about the media, what they're gonna say if we do lose lose this game or if we do win this game.
Oh, you ain't got to worry about the 12th man in Seattle right now, because when they start losing, they start scattering.
They bail. Yeah, that's exactly what he said.
I haven't seen a Seahawk jersey around here this year in Arizona, and this is the division right here. And normally you see a bunch of Seahawk stuff. I haven't seen nothing. So
yeah, but Arizona's
kicking ass. The Cardinals are kicking ass right now, man.
I'm telling you right now, last year before last, all you saw was Seahawk gear. But now you ain't seeing nothing. So that 12th man is injured.
Right. I think you're
Seahawks
right.
fans are like crackheads, though. Like in Seattle, they're like crackheads. They're like Browns fans. They don't know what fanatical because they're like Browns fans.
Yeah. Today, I want to ask you what you think. How big is it that the Panthers are getting Luke Kuechly back for this game?
I think it's very big because the biggest thing that we have been missing is being able to stop the run as like the way my team can. We haven't. I mean, we let Doug Martin. I think he had over 100 yards against us.
Mm-hmm.
I just felt like running up in the middle, it wasn't the same. And two, the biggest thing is the coverage. Nothing wrong with AJ Klein. He's good. But the way Luke Kuechly can kind of, as much of the field as he can cover, is what we were missing as far as being able to run zone with our defense. Because AJ Klein, I think he's so stopping the run first. When he drops back, he doesn't really drop back that deep, and he gets beat by slot guys and tight ends and running backs, stuff that just doesn't happen when Luke Kuechly's there.
The interesting part about Kuechly is all the line calls that he makes.
Right.
Making sure guys going up. He calls plays well before anybody on the offense even knows what's going on.
Yeah, he does have he has really good vision, and he can really
he does.
Teams alignment and that sort of thing.
Yeah, the film study is out of this world.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's exactly what it is.
His intangibles are really amazing.
You can't measure. You can't measure his intangibles, really.
Exactly.
What he brings to a team, intangible-wise. You can't put a value on it. I wanted to say...
I don't know if y'all ever listened to the sound effects from when we played Seattle in the playoffs. If you listen to Luke Kuechly's part, he's calling exactly where the play is going.
Yep, every single time.
He's saying, okay, Marshawn's running in this gap right here on this play, and that's exactly what they did. Like, his film study is just... That was the biggest thing they said they had to try to stop him from doing while he had the concussion, because he still wanted to watch film.
Oh, wow. Another thing I wanted to mention was the Seahawks brought over Kerry Williams, I think his name is, from Philadelphia. And he has just not fit into their system just yet. I think
none of the Eagles' cornerbacks fit anywhere.
No, and Sherman even has looked. Teams have gone after him this year, whereas in years past they've kind of went the other way.
The biggest thing now with Sherman is that they're moving Sherman around because Kerry Williams is doing so bad.
Right.
That he's not just staying on that one side. I've seen Sherman in the slot this year. I've seen him on the other side. I know he was following AJ Green last week.
Right, and still couldn't control him. Had no chance. AJ Green went all universe on him.
Yeah.
So I think Seattle is very vulnerable at this point. Now, they are at home, so there is a bit of an advantage there. Carolina's coming off a bye week, so you would think they've had a chance to put a really good offensive game plan in place. But we know about Shula. He goes to his napkin drawer and pulls out his playbook.
People say that this is the best play calling we've got from Shula ever this year.
You're right. This year has been. I agree. But, we've coming off a bye. We should have a good game plan in place offensively and defensively. And, Seattle's going to come to play. They got beat by a very good Bengals team last week. So, they're going to have something to prove. So I guess today is, all things considered, what do you see the score being?
Most people I know are going to go as a typical Seattle Panthers game. I think we win by at least 10.
Wow.
because I mean, the biggest thing, the 12th man, even at their hype, doesn't affect us. People think that's a big deal, but when you're a defensive and running team like we are, I mean, that doesn't really matter. And if you ever watch our games, we run silent count a lot anyway. If you look at most of our games, when Cam Newton gets at the end of the play clock, he's not really, he never really says, hey, he's doing that whole clapping his hands thing to give me the ball.
Right.
So the crowd noise doesn't affect him as much as it does other quarterbacks. When you got your Peyton Manning's doing he yelling for the whole play clock, all that kind of stuff. Omaha. I think we won by at least 10.
All right, Scott, what are your thoughts on that Carolina-Seattle game? Holy smokes is being attacked.
I think that Seattle wins that game just because it's in Seattle and just because you don't know how healthy Luke Kuechly really is right now.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that Seattle, if Lynch is healthy, will control the clock, but their run game, their offense is just not what it used to be even last year. They're not the same team. But Seattle in Seattle is always a tough draw. And I don't know how confident I would be in the Panthers right now, just because going over their schedule, looking at all the games, watching all the film, I wasn't really impressed with who they beat and how they beat them. I don't see a great juggernaut offense. I don't see an unstoppable, like an immovable object defense. I see a 4-0 team that's played a soft schedule against the Buccaneers, the Saints, the Jaguars, and the Texans, and hasn't really been challenged yet, hasn't really been tested by a team with talent, with real talent yet. All right, I got to throw this. Crazy.
I know. You can definitely make that argument, but if you're going to get a test, this is the kind of test that you want, I believe. So we'll know.
And I hate that conversation because what team out of the unbeatens has played teams with a mostly winning record? I don't think none of us have.
Atlanta and the Patriots are the closest.
But Cincinnati's played some couple of tough teams.
Cincinnati's played some tough teams as well.
Yeah,
but basically Atlanta and the Patriots. Because the Patriots played Pittsburgh, Buffalo.
The Cowboys have a losing record. Isn't the Giants the only team with a winning record that y'all played?
Yeah, the Giants. But Atlanta, you played 3 teams that have 1 win. Atlanta's played 4 teams that have at least 2.
And I just think the biggest thing is you have to look at what those teams have been giving other teams, either they win or they give up a fight for the most part. The only team that simply has is a Texans versus y'all. But if you look at Hopkins has had 100 yards every game except for us.
Mm-hmm.
Allen Hurns and
Hopkins only had 100 yards against the Falcons because they put in the backups, and he had 130 yards in the fourth quarter. He had 25 before they put the backups in.
I mean, at the end of the day,
yards against Jalen Collins. I mean, good job. You beat a rookie who shouldn't be on the field right now. Nice work.
Well, I know the Redskins came in and gave Atlanta fits, so teams, I'm sure, will try to mimic that. A big part of it was the fact that
the thing that gave Atlanta fits was their defense and their continued blitzing that was actually effective.
Mm-hmm.
Teams have guys like Chris Baker and Jason Hatcher who can attack the gaps inside like that and allow the outside blitzers to get through. Carolina, even when they're healthy, they don't blitz. Y'all are a 4-man rush.
Rarely.
Y'all are a 4-man rush, drop 7 back, cover 3, cover 2.
Mm-hmm.
Very simple scheme.
Right. Well, where we've seen the most improvement, I say we, but where Carolina has been most improved is in that secondary. That secondary is significantly better than it has been the past 2 years, and Josh Norman is the reason for that. So that is something that teams are going to have to be concerned with. They're going to have to. The field is getting ready to be cut in half because Josh Norman is that good of a defensive back. So that's going to change a lot of things for the Panthers coming up. I think we'll see that this week.
Not necessarily, because I still think you can attack Josh Norman if you know what to do. You can still attack him. I don't think you want to put him at Dion status yet, where you're talking about only half the field is his. I don't think that's quite there yet.
Okay. Well, like I said,
know,
I think we'll see that after this week.
I think there are a couple of receivers. There are a couple of receivers that can kind of equalize him a little. You know what I mean?
Past 2 years, I haven't seen that guy yet.
Yeah, I haven't either. Nobody's really gone off on him in two years. So I mean, we'll see. It's still a young season, and I'll be honest with you. Even if the Panthers lose this game, it's not the end of the year for them. You know what I mean? It's not. It's only our fifth game. So by no means will we feel like our season is over, like the Panther season is over. They still have a lot of work to do. Win or lose, they still have a lot of work to do. Even beating Seattle doesn't give this team anything. They didn't win anything, just one game. And I think they're aware of that. But I do think to a certain degree the Panthers have to get this monkey off their back, so to speak.
Yeah.
I see it being a close game. I don't think it's going to be much more. I don't think it'll be more than a touchdown either way. What do you think, Gene? Tell me the Panthers score and the score for. Well, the Bucs aren't playing this week.
Yeah, the bye week. I think the Panthers will win this game, to be honest. I think this is a different Cam Newton than what I've seen in the past. We haven't really, I know, like you guys have mentioned, haven't really been tested a whole lot, but I think that the way the Seahawks have been playing, I've been really watching them because I live in this region. Mm-hmm. So I really think that, having watched the Carolina Panthers, because I keep track of what's going on in the NFC South, I do think that they do have a chance to win this game. I know a lot of people talk about the receivers, but I think what they do on offense, it puts them in a position to win. And, everybody talks about the Bucs game or the games that they've won and the teams that they've beaten. Every Sunday you got to go out there and win. So I know a lot of teams play down to their opponents, and I haven't seen that a whole lot. So I think that Carolina is in a good position right now. I don't know how the Seahawks, I don't know where their head is right now, but, you're coming in, and I know there's a bullseye on their back, but I do think that Carolina does sneak out a win here, 24-21.
I don't know about. I don't even think the score is going to be that high. For one, I think going into Seattle. Seattle just lost a game to the Bengals, mm-hmm. where they had a big lead. And the Bengals came back and beat them. I think you're gonna be running into a more focused team and a pretty pissed off team. And I'm kind of with Scott that I think that you do lose that game. I think it's gonna be like in that 17-14 type deal. I don't think it's gonna be in the 20s because I've never seen a Seattle Carolina game go in the 20s.
Man,
well, Russell Wilson isn't looking like he has in the past either.
Not at all.
Not even close.
It was a single-digit game for both teams in terms of points.
I agree, 9-6 or some crap like that.
Got two pretty much inept offenses against two pretty good defenses.
Yeah, and I'm just saying, that Seattle defense coming in
Scott is cracking me up. Scott is dogging the Panthers, but he's doing it very casually. He's not doing it like all in your face, but he's so dogging the Panther.
And I told y'all before y'all let me on the show.
Today you're doing an outstanding job of keeping things under control. You really are, because I know you just wanna fly off the handle, but you're doing a great job. And Scott, I respect your opinion because a lot of times you do know what you're talking about. But I think to call this offense inept is probably a bit of an overstatement. I would say it's more adequate. It's an adequate offense. It's good enough to win. We may not be spectacular, but we're good enough. We're good enough to win the game.
But I'm asking this question: Can your receiving core really match up with their secondary overall? Do you think that? Because especially losing Kelvin Benjamin, that's where I kind of think that's kind of part of the edge for Seattle to me.
My only concern. What I would say to that, Greg, is the exact same thing, but opposite. How do their receivers match up with our secondary? Because their receivers really aren't spectacular guys. They're not Julio
They're not
Jones.
spectacular.
No,
But they also have a lot of chemistry
outside of your
with
tight end.
Russell Wilson.
You got Jimmy Graham and you got Greg Olsen, and you guys got a whole bunch of crap after those guys.
Pretty much. Exactly.
Go ahead today.
I'm sorry that I'm not scared of Ted Ginn or Jericho Cotchery or Philly Brown.
No, I don't believe you felt scared of them.
They're not one of the receiving cores in the league, but they get the job done. I mean, again, what Ted Ginn, I say that to even your boy Tony, because Tony likes to dog him. What Ted Ginn does with us, he doesn't do with any of the teams he's ever been with.
They don't get the job done. The only reason why Ted Ginn does what he does with y'all is because he gets 25 targets in 5 games, 4 games. He doesn't see those targets with other teams. He gets 1 or 2 targets a game anywhere else he goes because he's the 5th best receiver at best on any other roster in the NFL.
I don't argue that, but he's still doing what he's
Benjamin
doing.
Healthy, and if Devin Funchess was ready to go, you guys would have a pair of 1,000-yard potential receivers, and Cam Newton would be throwing 55% completion rate. He'd have a completion rate that's probably in the 60s, in the mid-60s. But because your receivers are so damn terrible, you have some of the worst receivers in the league right now, with Funchess banged up and with Benjamin out, that no one is scared of your wide receivers.
And
not a single person, not a single team is scared of the Carolina Panthers wide receiving core led by Ted Ginn Jr.
What should be scary to other teams is the guy wearing number 1. That's where the fear should be. Go ahead, Tadeus. What do you want to say?
You just again off the name. I mean, a game where he's had 2 touchdowns. Ted Ginn's already had a game where he's had about 100 yards. I don't know what what does he have to do to get a little bit of respect, man? He got to get what, 150?
Catch more than 50% of the targets?
Yeah, I mean,
catch more than 4 out of 9 passes that go his way?
When's the last time we talked about Ted Ginn really dropping passes? What, the Texans game?
He's dropped 3 passes this year
already. Well, he's talking about since the Texans game.
I don't really remember dropping the ball like that.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I'm trying to think of a situation where he did.
Where's the test?
What you mean?
Where's Ted Ginn against a good corner? Yeah, you go against the Saints, he puts up 93 yards. You go against the Buccaneers, he puts up 18 yards on 3 targets. Can't get open all day.
2 touchdowns. He can have as many yards as he wants if he's going to get 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, 2 touchdowns. Great. It was against the Buccaneers on the only 2 times he got open all day.
Well, that's that. I mean, what more can you ask for the guy? Just catch what's thrown to you, and if it's 2 targets,
you ask him to get open. That's what he gets paid to do. He is a wide receiver in the NFL. If he can't get open against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, secondary, he has no business being in the NFL.
When is the last time Roddy White had 2 touchdowns? When is the last time Hankerson had 2 touchdowns?
There you go.
Again,
what you have to consider is the field position. The field position in that Buccaneers. The field position in that Buccaneers game. That way, you're talking about what, 4 interceptions by Jameis Winston and a fumble. They were in good field position all day. I mean, you got to consider where he was during that game.
He had 90 yards the week before. So again, what does he have to do?
Catch more than 50% of his targets when he's targeted more than 10 times a game. Actually get open the first, 40 minutes of the game.
You say that. When is Ted Ginn ever get 10 targets? We only throw the ball 10 times a game.
I don't think Ginn does much of anything in this game.
You realize how easy Ted Ginn is going to be to shut down for Richard Sherman? Richard Sherman laughs at guys like Ted Ginn every week.
Again, you just going off a reputation, because if you ever watch,
I'm not even going off a reputation. I'm going off of film. I watch film on every single team in the South every week.
If you watch Richard Sherman, what has Richard Sherman always struggled against since he's been in the NFL?
Speed.
Guys.
The deep ball. Guess who doesn't have enough time to throw a deep ball because your offensive line can't pass block?
No way. That's so. Now you're just making stuff up. Now you're just making stuff up because Carolina has had one of the best lines in the NFL this year.
According to PFF.
Yes, according to PFF. But everybody uses PFF, so you can't toss it aside like it's a garbage site.
Not everybody uses PFF.
Well, not at all. No, PFF
out there who's an offensive line guy like LaCharles Bentley or Duke Manyweather, they're going to sit there and laugh at what PFF says about offensive lines because they don't know what the fuck they're talking about when it comes to offensive lines.
Okay, you saying that. When's the last time you've seen a team really just get a whole bunch of pressure on us this year?
You guys don't pass enough. You guys don't attempt enough.
We can't win. No matter what we say, we can't win.
You have attempted the least amount of passes this year.
Hold up, but you say our offensive line is trash, right? So I'm asking, what game did you see where they?
I ain't say all that. All I said was that I think your receiving core is secondary.
I'm talking about your boy Scott. He's talking about our offensive line. When did our offensive line struggle?
Struggle with Tampa.
How many seconds? Y'all getting a whole pressure on us?
When you flush Cam Newton out of the pocket, that's pressure. Just because you have a quarterback who can run away from it doesn't mean that your offensive line's good.
Folks, we're not getting a whole bunch of pressure. I don't know what game you were watching. I don't know what game you were watching. I watched the games 2-3 times.
I saw Jerry McCoy in the backfield all day.
Jerry McCoy was hurt. He wasn't even 100% playing his
Mm-hmm.
In like one pressure
all day.
And he's been hurt most of the year, if I recall. Okay. This can go on forever and never end. So basically,
I just don't understand.
I say one bad thing about the Panthers, and today it goes off. I'm out, guys.
Because I just don't understand it. Because you talk about offensive line when your team has given up a 10-sack game to our team at least once every year.
Mm-hmm.
How can you open your mouth to say offensive line?
And he's not telling the truth when he says that you're going off because you're not. You're really not.
Compared to what I usually do in my videos,
this is so tame, guys. If you've never seen one of his hate week videos or one of his hate videos, and the TTC? Yeah, and the TTC, go check it out because
Scott's just sensitive, man. He's the same. I told you before you let me on he's the same dude that blocked me on Twitter.
Yes.
Because I guess I was talking too much about the Falcons. He's soft, man.
He did say he was considering. That's not what he said. He did say he thought he should unblock you since you were on the show and you guys were having a good rapport. And I think even tonight's rapport wasn't bad. You weren't going off by any means. But we'll see. We'll know a lot come next Wednesday because we'll be right back here on Southbound and Down. Folks, it was fun tonight. Gene, Greg, Thaddeus, thanks for coming on. I know you guys give up a part of your night on Wednesdays, and I appreciate it. I love hearing the insight you guys have. And make sure to catch Gene on Buck What You Heard. Greg has been participating in our power rankings on the website on CarolinaCatChronicles.com, and he's been covering the AFC East. Speaking of which, Greg, I got to forward on 2 links to you that are right to the spreadsheet and right to the.
I already put the spreadsheet for the AFC North.
Okay.
Yep. I already put the stuff in there.
Comments and all that stuff. Great.
Yeah.
Great. And
I just got to sync. I got to forward to the ranking.
Okay. Again, guys, if you don't subscribe to Today It's on YouTube, what is it? Mr. T Money?
Mr. T Money 1993.
1993. Yeah, check it out. It'll make you laugh. He's got this video where he places a bet with the Buccaneers guy. You gotta watch that one. But did you see that, Gene?
Yeah, I saw it.
Anyway. Again, I appreciate it, guys. This is the Freaking Puerto Rican at Joe Romano on Twitter. Thanks for your time and have a good night.
Good night.